Innes. Sergeant. Right. Rana.
Here.
Himes. Nothing. Lars. Blue.
Here.
Lewin.
Here.
Wolfen. Violet. Sochet.
Here.
Giordina.
Here.
Tejada. And Senators Alvarez.
Here.
Bethel. Chaudhary. Chen. Chow.
Here.
Ortiz. Paddock. Crook.
Here.
Domenica. Urbana. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Gugias is not. He's the vice president. Right. We should update this. All right. Hassan.
Here.
Hines is not here. Versha. Not here. Innes is here. Johnson. June. Jones.
Here.
How did I mess up Jones? Krishna. Roshan Nayaga.
Here.
McCabe. McLean. Montini.
Here.
Ing.
Here.
Novak. Paul. Rana.
Here.
Rana.
Here.
Rifkin.
Here.
Rowe. Saha. Sergeant's on his way. Schaefer.
Here.
Sonora.
Here.
Did I pronounce that right, John? We'll link up that. Smith? Kyle? No? Right? Either right? That's right? That's right. And Wiley?
Jim, I'm still not on the list.
Manfred. Right.
I
Well,
appreciate the video, but I feel in my soul too. You can take my spot.
That's exactly what it is, Jim. Can we get the sergeant at arms to do a quorum count as we proceed? Is there anybody who'd like to recognize for public comment? Yeah. Who are you?
Tyler Williams.
Tyler Williams from?
UConn Students for Sensible Drug Policy.
So recognized. Go ahead. Yes.
Hey everyone. So I just said I'm Tyler Williams. I am the current CFO of UConn Students for Sensible Drug Policy, and I just came here to say a few things. Initially, really about the funding policy that's up for vote this evening, but really the main issue that I want to touch on is issues of transparency and communication between USG and Tier 2 organizations. There are, so in this new policy that's being voted on tonight, there are some issues that I know that I have and that other Tier 2 organizations have, and like that's kind of par for the course. Like we all know funding's hard and like the big challenge. So I'm not here to talk about like specific policies that I'm unhappy with or happy with or want to see, but rather the issue that there was a proposal for changes in the funding policy made last week, and the vote is happening this week. And there was no real communication handed down from USG to any Tier 2s that I know. I was not notified or asked an opinion of at all. I've spoken with Tier 2 organizations, the UConn Free Press. I'm actually here with some representatives from Poetic Reliefs. Spoke with Idealists United, and I actually was just at the engineering involvement fair, and I spoke with a bunch of the Tier 2s there as well, and all the officers there hadn't heard about any of the changes. Luckily, I read the Daily Campus, and I kind of got on that, and I know a few senators personally. I was able to speak with them about it. So the real issue here is that these funding policies directly affect us a lot, and when things change drastically, we have big problems, and I know a lot of Tier 2s experience that, and then there's a lot of problems between Tier 2s and USG, and it's just a mess. Coming into the semester, we were kind of told that yes, funding would be changing, but one of the focuses would be on transparency and communication about those changes, and that's something that we haven't really seen. And that's something that we want to work on going forward as Tier 2 leaders. I'm here with a few of them, and the ones that I've spoken to. I'd be here with more, but we really only had a week to organize anything to say, which is one of the access of those documents. I actually couldn't find any of the minutes online where they're supposed to be posted. I don't know if that was me or on another end. So better communication, better openness of documents. And hopefully, what I'd really like this evening, because I know that you're all going to be voting on it and debating and talking about it, but I was hoping that just on behalf of all the tier 2s that I've spoken with and just giving a benefit of the doubt to the other tier 2s who aren't represented here tonight because they haven't had an opportunity to be informed, that maybe the changes to this funding policy be tabled for the evening, be tabled for the week until a time such as there's been better communication between USG and the tier 2 groups that this directly affects. I understand we want to get these solutions done and we want to try things out, but if we're not getting the input from the tier 2 leaders that this affects, I don't think that we're going to see a good solution, and we're just going to have to go through this all over again. So I think that's basically all I have to say is that really what we want to see is more communication coming to us, and more opportunities for us to have input, because I feel like I had zero input. I feel like if I had not picked up the Daily Campus that day, I would have woken up tomorrow and then had a whole bunch of new regulations for funding and not known anything about them. So that's about all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions for Mr. Williams? Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there anybody else who would like to be recognized for public comment? Yes. What's your name?
Sabine Quettant.
I'm sorry?
Sabine Quettant.
Did you
Can
get
you
that?
spell that? S-A-B-I-N-E. Quettant. Q-U-E-T-A-N-T. Thank you.
Is there a particular affiliation? You don't have to have one.
Yes, from Florida Police.
Did you get that? Oh, wait. No, it's okay. Take your time. So recognized.
Good evening, everybody. I am the Chief Organizational Officer this year for Poetic Release, and I'm up here to talk about the same issues that Tyler came up here and talked about. I guess my issue is that as the current and new president of a Tier 2 organization, I know in the past, speaking to some of the representatives here, they said there were emails that were sent out to Tier 2 organizations and that the response wasn't what it was expected to be, or there was not a lot of response. I'm here to say, as a new president, I didn't get the chance to respond. And that's something that I feel like I missed out on, and that a lot of new presidents coming in with all the turnover that happens with these organizations, the communication has to be constant, and I feel like it's not fair that I wasn't allowed, or that other Tier 2 presidents or CFOs were not allowed to have that opportunity to know that these things go on. I wasn't even aware that I could come and speak. Unless Tyler hadn't told me that, I would have never known that you're allowed to come speak at these meetings. So I really think the communication really needs to be, it needs to be increased, it needs to be transparent. And with that being said, I also would ask that this issue be tabled for the week, and that I, as president, and my CFO and other Tier 2 organizations have the chance to look over these changes, see how they directly affect us, to have an input and to have an opinion, because that's what you guys are here for, is to be our voice. And I feel like the communication, the connection between the two has not been what it can be. So that's what I'm asking for tonight, is that the issue be tabled and that we be given a chance to think about this initiative that's directly going to affect us. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Khan? Thank you, Mr. Khan. Is there anybody else who'd like to be recognized for public comment? Sure.
I'm Devin Samuels.
Devin Samuels?
And
I'll just
I-
wait until she gets it down in the breath. Did you get it? Okay.
Poetic Release.
From Poetic Release. So recognized.
Is it Devin with an O or?
With an I.
Hey everybody, I'm Devin Samuels. I am the previous CEO of Poetic Release and am now the current Vice President of Outreach. And I'm coming to talk to you tonight on this same issue. The point I think I want to drive home is that I would also ask to table this issue, but I would also ask for communication to be sent from USG with access to this document. I think it would fall short if USG just tabled this and then no communications were had and more ready access wasn't given to the documents, because then we could table it for a week and then a repeat of what happened this first time could easily happen again. So I would ask for this table, but also with perhaps an email or some sort of contact given from USG to the COOs and CFOs of Tier 2 organizations with an alert that changes are being made and with a copy of the proposal. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Samuels? Thank you, Mr. Samuels. Is there anybody else who would like to be recognized for public comment? Seeing none, we move into minutes. Approval of the minutes from August 28, 2013. Unfortunately, we have some problems with these minutes, and I understand that we're waiting for 2 sets of minutes now. The first being from April 25th. 4 months have lapsed, or now almost close to 5. And unfortunately, the student employee that did those minutes is either no longer with us or not reachable. Not like she didn't pass away. She doesn't work anymore. So we're just working hard to track those down, and we need to get these correctors. We'll be getting those to you. I'm sure we'll have 3 batches of minutes to pass next Senate. So, by unanimous consent, unless anybody objects to this, I'd like to continue on to reports of the executive. Seeing none, we move into report of the President, President Courchain.
Good evening, everyone. First, before I get into the meat of my report, I would just like to let everybody know that one of our standing Senate rules is that we don't use computers or tablets during meetings, just so we can have our full attention with what's going on. I know that many of us are new, so we don't know all of these rules. We'll get into that more as our full membership joins us, but I appreciate that everyone's cool with that as we move forward. First, I have some external appointments for approval by the body. These are some of the ones that I listed in our email 2 weeks ago, and we have a few of them to approve. So I'd like to start with University Senate. The 2 final appointees to University Senate will be Senator Luxler-Nigam and Senator Saab. Did I pronounce that right?
Do the nominees accept their nomination? Are there any questions for the nominees? Seeing none, we move into the debate. Is there anybody who would like to debate these appointments? Okay. Hold on a second. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for the debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying the President's nominees for the University Senate, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Enthusiastically? Aye. Opposed? Nay. Abstentions? Congratulations.
Next, we have Scholastic Standards Committee. It's a standing committee of University Senate. For that, we have our Academic Affairs Chairperson, Leanna Innes.
Does the nominee accept? Okay. Are there any questions for the nominee? Did you get that?
No.
Did you get it? Awesome. Are there any, so we did questions, right? Is there anybody who'd like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying the President's nominee for Scholastic Affairs, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions.
gusto, especially for this one, because my final appointment for the evening is someone to the Student Welfare Committee of the University Senate, a returning appointee, Kevin Alvarez.
Does the nominee accept? Are there any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, we move into debate. Is there anybody who'd like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote.
Student welfare. All right.
Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying the president's nominee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, Senator Manfredi, Chairperson. All opposed, nay. Abstentions. Congratulations.
All right. That's it for the boring stuff for now. However, we have a lot of positions to still fill for those committees. So I need you guys to step up for those. Everyone should be interested in serving on these committees because that is where the meat of the work at this university happens. If you want to be involved in that, you want to really know what's going on and meet administrators and faculty members who make this place run, that's where it happens. So I'm going to send out another email. The list will be pretty much exactly the same because with one exception, all of those committees are still open. And I would love to see all of you in my inbox telling me that you want to serve on everything because we're all overachievers here. Moving on to my actual report. Over the past 2 weeks, I have been to the Senate Executive Committee twice. Basically, the biggest issue that the administration is dealing with right now is the over-enrollment of the freshman class. As we've said before, everybody's very happy that they are here and that they are wonderful, but there are a lot more of them than we were ready for. And the university is going to continue getting bigger over the next few years. So there will be projects going on involving building dorms, building dining halls, building more classrooms, and we need to be at the cutting edge of that, as I said last time. Also, we had our first meeting of the Civility Task Force. That task force was appointed last spring and will be dealing with campus culture and the way that we treat each other as undergraduate students here. It's a bit of an abstract idea to be dealing with, but everyone in this room has a vested interest in that, and all of the students on campus do. So if you have any ideas of things that you want to share with me about ways that students can be more civil and be more cooperative with each other, come talk to me. I'm pretty much in my office all the time. Finally, at University Senate itself on Monday night, we had the annual report of the diversity branches of the university. This year we are doing numerically quite well in terms of diversity. The way that they track those statistics, though, is inherently biased, as any statistic is. So one good place for us to look into is whether or not we're actually meeting those cultural goals, in addition to the numeric goals that the university has set. So that's pretty much that for things that I've been at over the past 2 weeks. But I would like to update all of you on 2 projects that USG is working on, because these are all hands-on-deck projects, and we need to get moving on them. The Recreation Center came up last Senate meeting, and as I mentioned, it is a project that we are all going to have to pitch in on in order to make movement on. Executives have been talking about this extensively, and while there's some very real financial issues that need to be dealt with this project, the project is moving much faster than we've been in response to over the summer because we haven't been here. So we've chosen 2 goals for us to focus on with this project. Those are setting in place a governance board for the new building when it goes up, so that the building goes up well, and that students have their say in how things happen when recreation expands in UConn. And 2, that we don't lose access to the existing space that we are using right now, so the services don't go down even though we were paying money to build a new building. Those are the 2 goals. And as I said, it's all hands on deck. So if you want to get involved, come see me, come see any of us on exec, and just ask anyone who's in the office how you can help out. These things will be moving quickly. Finally, it's recruitment season for everybody. And as you all should know, and if you haven't voted yet today, make sure you vote. Elections are running right now and go through 3 o'clock tomorrow. Vote for people in your area. If anyone that you know is not currently running and you think they would be good, encourage them to write themselves in and get a few people to vote for them. Because we always need good people in this organization. You guys are all good people. The more we have, more hands on deck. Many hands make light work. That's the expression I was looking for. Finally, committees. Those of you who are here probably gone to a committee meeting sometime in the last week or so. We need more people in our committees because that's where the real work happens. So if your friends don't feel comfortable writing themselves in, but you do think that they would be have fun in USG and be really involved in the work that we do here, have them come to a committee meeting. It'll be a lot of fun. And that's it for my report. So.
Are there any questions for the President? Thank you, President Boucher. Next, we move into the Board of Vice President. Mrs. Rubens.
Hello, mine's pretty quick. I went to 2 meetings in addition to the USG Senate meeting. So the first meeting we went to was with Police Chief O'Connor, and we were talking with her about the expansion of our police and fire divisions in response to the over-enrollment in the coming years, talking about how their forces are going to change in response to the change in students. They have also transferred Husky Watch under transportation, so that's a big change that we will be getting you guys information and pamphlets about, because that's no longer done through the police department. It's through transportation, so they have different regulations and different scheduling for those pickups. And then the most important thing that I'm also going to need people to help out with is they are going to be looking at our blue light effectiveness. And Police Chief O'Connor has been really adamant that she's not making any changes unless she has a student sitting on the committee and getting student opinions on it. She will not make any changes without a student present. So, that being said, I need a representative from USG to be willing to go to these meetings. If you guys are interested in going to that, she's looking to get rolling as soon as possible, so you can just email me and I will get that set up with her. So be thinking about that in addition to other things you guys are wanting to be part of. And then my other meeting was the first meeting of PAC, which is the President's Athletic Advisory Committee. This is the first time a student has sat on this committee. And it was kind of just an overview of the athletic standards for our student, or our academic standards for our student athletes, and the changes in their class requirements and GPA requirements in order to bridge the gap between student athletes and students, so kind of bringing the university together as a whole. So we went over how they're working towards changing that, and we are going to be talking next month about Title IX and our actual compliance with the academic standards and the repercussions if we do not. So, if you guys have any more questions about that, please feel free to come see me. I have a whole folder of notes from that meeting that I obviously can't share with you all right now. So, please ask me questions, and that's it.
Are there any questions for the Vice President?
That's my plan.
Seeing none, we move into the report of the Comptroller. Comptroller Price.
Good evening. I have 2 things that I would like to discuss today because I'm presenting 2 pieces of legislation. The first is regarding the policies of the funding board and student organizations, and the second is the budget of USG. So the first one, the student organization policies, the Tier 2 policies, I'll call them, they were reviewed and have been changed due to a few reasons, but the most important one I would say is because of issues that both myself and funding board chair, Rana, discovered over the summer and wanted to solve. So we wanted to use the policies as a comprehensive list that organizations can refer to, and there won't be any assumptions made by the funding board that organizations are expected to adhere to. I don't think that that's fair. I want everything written down so that it's all explained. There's no confusion. So all of these issues that have been brought to me, we tried to address in the policies. But there are actually no tight regulations on groups. There is nothing that groups are expected to do any differently from how they have been in the past. And I encourage groups to come to me with any questions about that. The second is the budget. We have a huge amount of money this semester, over $1 million to work with, and the way we are going to be addressing that is I don't want to act just like a bank handing out money. I think it's important to know exactly where the money is going to spend it efficiently and effectively, and to establish good relationships with our programs who are giving money to organizations. I've been working with RHA, the area councils. I've been working with guard dogs to keep them in the loop, but also to listen to what they want and try to give them that. So with that, I am encouraging committees to basically keep me updated on what they're spending, if they're making any changes, so that I can track that, so that we don't have a huge void at the end of the semester of money that we haven't spent. So if you keep me updated, I can then publicly announce how USG is doing. That's all.
Are there any questions for the comptroller? Thank you, Comptroller Press. Next, we move into the report of the Chief of Staff. Thank you.
I'd first like to thank everybody that helped out at the involvement fair. We couldn't have done it without everybody who volunteered. And we definitely got a lot of names, and we'll have to see if they show up at the committee meetings or 100%. So, I would like to just make a clarification about the New York Times placement on campus that that USG pays for. They're moved out of all the academic buildings, and they've been put into dining halls and dorms on the periphery of campus. So if anybody is looking for those in places where they used to be, look in the dorms, not in the academic buildings anymore. And then I just wanted to touch briefly on the threshold for writing candidates. President Bourchier mentioned that you can encourage people to run for a write-in seat for Senate. To get that seat, they'll have to get at least 10 write-in votes. Full name, no nicknames, your name exactly as it appears with the registration. So if you have any questions about that, you can ask me now or after Senate.
Are there any questions for the Chief of Staff? Seeing none, we move into the report of the legislative. I'll make this really quick. Diversity Strategic Plan Committee, it was President Courchain's appointment to that committee. Hasn't met yet. I'm told that we'll be meeting sometime in the end of September, so I should have more information for you about that soon, hopefully. Chief of Staff Giannina and I are working on some of the programming for our orientation, which is September 22nd. All of you have to be there, but it's okay because we have food. The Chief of Staff and his staff are doing a lot of great work with that. And then the last thing is the call for deputy letters of intent that I made last Senate, not last week, last Senate. Still in the process of reviewing those letters. The only thing I'm concerned about is opening that up to some of the senators who are elected in the elections that are open today, which the president also mentioned. I think we're going to wait and see and open up the call for letters for everybody, just as that's what we did last year. And so I think that's the most equitable thing to do. But have gotten some great letters so far. Appreciate everybody who submitted the letter so far. Other than that, that's me. I could use a deputy or 3 because right now everything's crazy. But if there are any questions for me, you can ask. The last thing I'll say is we need to advocate for more parking because holy crap, it took me like 20 minutes to park. That's just another thing. Are there any questions? No? Cool. Y'all look good. Report of the Chief Justice.
Hi everybody, just to reiterate what Ed and John said, elections are until 3 o'clock tomorrow. If you have friends, like tell them to vote, or if they're interested, tell them to run, they just need 10 people to vote. Thanks.
Are there any questions for Justice Lee? Seeing none, moving to reports on the committees. Economic affairs. Yeah. minutes.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? All very quiet today. So first off, I would like to iterate the importance of Senate and committee meetings. This week, all across the board, we struggled with attendance, and that is something that, as elected members of this governing body, it is enumerated in the USG Constitution that you should be coming to these meetings and Senate. There are, as you all know, there are 5 standing committees, and you should be sitting on the one that represents the body of your constituency the best, essentially. Just so you guys know, you may not be aware of this, but there is something known as quorum that we have to meet in order to, first of all, begin the meeting, and second of all, vote on certain things. So if we don't have a certain amount of people, depending on how many people are on the committee, we can't even begin the meeting. So if you know ahead of time that you're not going to be able to attend, shoot the chairperson of your committee an email saying, hey, I'm not going to be there. So if there's a certain amount of people that aren't there, we can cancel the meeting ahead of time. But I don't foresee that happening because everybody's super excited about being on these committees. That being said, academic affairs will meet at 4 tomorrow, and the SOC, as usual, I expect to see all of your academic bright shining faces there, and be prepared to talk about initiatives that you have gone out and talked to your constituents about that you want to take on this year. That's about it.
Any questions for the chairperson? Yes.
I was wondering, do we have form for right now?
We did.
Yes, we do.
Any other questions for Chairperson Ennis? Thank you, Chairperson Ennis. Next, we move into Board of External Affairs, Chairperson Sargent. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Speaker, I too had trouble parking, so I apologize for my tardiness. How's everybody doing today? So I'm a little rusty because it was a long day today, but External Affairs, it's the best committee. It is undergraduate student government body, so I definitely encourage all of you to come. My meetings are on Friday. Everybody, I know Friday, you're ready for the weekend, but Friday is a great time to get that last second wind of productiveness at 1:15 in the SOC conference room. So I'm looking forward to seeing all your beautiful faces. Just some more logistics and just let you guys know what's going on. As far as town affairs, the town relations committee, we have yet to meet on that, but I'll keep you guys updated on that. The big event is Festival on the Green. Unfortunately, it is, I don't know if you guys know, last time I told you, it is on the same exact day as USG orientation, so I don't expect you guys to obviously be there, but hopefully I'll be able to pull some of my committee members at some point and I'll let you guys know how that all plans out. So the theme this year is a lot of green, so obviously go green, so it's, we're looking to give out some nice recyclable tote bags, some nice USG stuff, and get a better feel of how the local businesses are doing. The new businesses at the store center, see their reaction to how they're doing so far. And then as far as state matters, kind of in a sense, set up a meeting with State Rep Greg Haddad. So if you guys have any questions that you'd like me to ask him, please just talk to me, and then I can ask him. So that's what I got for you guys right now.
Are there any questions for Chairperson Sargent? Chairperson Sargent, next we move to Board of
Thanks, guys.
Chairperson Rana?
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to first start off with a few nominations to my committee. I'd like to nominate Emily Mandig, Colleen Kelly, and Mehran Bayande.
Do the nominees, I can't give you names. Do the nominees accept the nomination?
They're not here.
They're not here?
Yes, they do. I'll give you the names.
So what you have to do is when you walk back.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Are there any questions for the nominees? The chairperson will answer them. Yeah,
Can you just for the Senate say why?
Yeah. All right. So Colleen and Mehran were both on the funding board committee last year, so they have 1 year of experience with the previous policies as well as the new ones. So they know what's going on, and they're very well. They know what's happening really well, and that's why I made those nominations. Emily Mandig is the funding board executive assistant. She's been working with bookkeeping for the past 3 years. She's in her 4th involved with USG, so she is also very well versed with the process of funding and with the policies themselves, which is why I made these nominations.
Are there any other questions for the nominees? Seeing none, we move into debate. Is there anybody who'd like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, all those in favor of ratifying the chairperson's nominations to the funding board, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions?
All right, next thing that I want to just got a few things to go over. As Comptroller Price did say, we will be looking at a few revisions to the funding policies. Now, these came up in discussion with Comptroller Price over the summer when we looked at a few not misinterpretations, but assumptions that were made by the previous board on these policies. What we are really trying to do in efforts was, put all of these assumptions or implications into writing themselves. That way, any student organization can look at the policies and know exactly why we made the decision the way we did based on the policies themselves. We didn't make any drastic changes that I can attest to that. We didn't make any drastic changes. For the most part, we made a few clarifications, a few definitions here and there, just so that student groups have a better reference as to what they need to look into and as to what they might need to present with their documentation. August 15th dispersal requests are just about done, and that's moving on quickly. We have the September 13th dispersal requests that are due this Friday, and we'll start reviewing those within a week as soon as they are up and ready to go. So that's what we'll be working on next. And meetings have been set for Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. in the SOC conference room. And if any of you are still interested, shoot me an email, talk to me after Senate, and we can set something up. That's all for me.
Are there any questions for the chairperson? Thank you, Chairperson Arna. Next, we move into report of student development. Chairperson Manfredi.
Hi everyone. I don't have a ton to report on. My committee got together for the first time this week. It was pretty done. We were pretty upset. Yeah, there was a big void missing. But we also got the last email address that we need to actually send out a doodle to get permanent meeting time. So that's when the fun begins. We've got like 2 initiatives that we're focusing on this year, and that's going to be like athletics within culture on campus and then diversity on campus. That's going to be about making connections. That's going to be about getting people to support each other. And so we're going to have a lot of fun talking about what people like to talk about, which is why you should come. Because people like to talk about what they like to talk about, and I'd like to hear what you want to talk about.
Are there any questions for the chairperson? Thank you, Chairperson Manfredi. Next, we move into report of student services. Is there a delegate for the chairperson? Okay, so by unanimous consent, we'll move into new business. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we move into new business. First, yeah.
Motion to suspend the rules in order to commemorate 9/11.
Sure. Commemorate how? Moment of silence for 9/11. By unanimous consent, are there any objections to observing a moment of silence in memory of September 11th? Seeing none, we'll move into a moment of silence for 2 minutes. Minute? Yeah. Sergeant Brown. Continue with our business, an act concerning the fall 2013 USG budget. Comptroller Price, we would like to present that legislation.
So, enact zoning proposed 2013 budget. Whereas the undergraduate student government is required to pass a budget each semester under its constitution, therefore be it resolved that undergraduate student government adopts the proposed budget as presented.
Is there a motion to enact this legislation? Motion by Chairperson Sargent. Is there a second? Senator Alvarez gets the second, so we'll just wait for her to get that down. Chairperson Sargent, Chairperson Morrison. No, that's okay. He's not there. Second is Senator Alvarez. Yeah, you got it. You can present the legislation.
Okay. Okay, so my first, I would just like to point out that the revenue isn't actually, that might vary slightly, that is still an estimate. Still waiting on the numbers from the registrar, but hopefully they'll be
respond. So, hold on one second. Go ahead.
Where will the money be coming from for the emergency legislative request?
Oh, I'm sorry, it keeps going down. Okay, so there you go, that's the reserve for legislative funding. We're also adding 20,000 in for alternative rate funding. That appeals money has already been allocated. The next, the 540 is what was allocated in the spring, and then the overfunding, I'll explain that. What we want to try to do, because groups overestimate the amount of money they want, then it leaves us with, funding board just doesn't spend as much as groups never end up spending it all. So what we're going to try to do is use previous semesters' data to basically overfund groups so that we're actually at a negative balance, but then because groups won't spend it all, we'll be left with zero. Well, it's the best way to ensure that we're using all of our money.
Are there any other questions for the comptroller regarding the budget that you proposed? Seeing none, we move into debate. Just for our new senators, what we're doing here is we're discussing whether or not we want to ratify this budget. Comptroller, you may sit down now. And if you have an opinion one way or the other, a strong opinion one way or the other, you can voice that now for our new senators. So if you'd like to be recognized, please raise your hand. Does anybody would like to be recognized for debate? Yes. Commissioner Fred.
I would like to say that I support this legislation. I think that Claire has done a phenomenal job, not just looking into our past and going through the history so that we make good decisions, not mistakes that we have before, but also finding new places to put all this extra money we're getting from over and over. And so thank you very much, Claire. And it looks very nice.
Good. Thank you, Chairperson and Fred. Is there anybody else who would like to be recognized? Seeing none, we're moving to a vote. All those in favor of ratifying the budget as proposed by the comptroller, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? You weren't very enthusiastic about your budget. Next, we move to an act concerning the tier 2 funding policies. That will be presented primarily by the funding board chair. And, okay, I was just about, no, I was just about to ask you. I was just about to ask you if you'd like to be up there. Yes, absolutely. Just as before you get into that, these are the exact same policies as I understand it that we copied on just a week ago.
No,
Maybe 2 or 3 words, we'll go over it.
one sentence, the wording was changed to make it more clear in our intentions.
We'll go over it. So, an act concerning the funding policies of the undergraduate student government.
Whereas the funding board and student organization funding policies govern the funding process of tier 2 organizations.
Whereas many student organizations were denied funding due to misinterpretation of the funding policies based on eligibility restrictions.
Whereas student organizations found the wording and language of the tier 2 funding policies to be misleading and difficult to follow.
Whereas the funding policies previously omitted clarification on the funding process for student organizations.
Therefore, be it resolved, the attached funding policies contain revisions regarding eligibility and restrictions, request definitions, and dispersal processes, among other minor changes.
Therefore, be it finally resolved that the undergraduate student government adopt the attached funding board and student organization funding policies as the official policies thereof, replacing previously adopted policies of the same title, effective immediately.
Is there a motion to adopt? Yeah, Senator Alvarez, seconded by Senator Rifkin. I see that Chairperson Sargent gave up because he meant more to other people. All right. So before we get into that, and by the way, we can just start presenting.
Okay. first thing I'll just quickly go through the minor changes, or the changes that we did make. For the most part, they're all the same ones that we had talked about during caucus. And once again, I'll just quickly go through them for those that weren't there or were not before. So the first one we started with is eligibility restrictions. We put in a clause for submitting officers who have passed the funding policy mastery test with all questions correct will be able to submit applications. This was previously already in the policies, not in the funding policies themselves, but in the operational guidelines of the funding board. What we wanted to do was put this in the policies as well, so that student organizations have a resource and know that they are required to pass these questions in this test. So that's the first change we made. Next one is only organizations that attend all scheduled appointments, including trainings requested by the funding board, will be eligible to receive funding. Any exceptions to this will be made at the discretion of the funding board and the comptroller. So this was for those times that we have so many budget applications, so many dispersal requests that come in, that sometimes it's not as much information as we thought we needed. So we might call in groups to clarify exactly what they wanted or give us a little bit more information about what exactly is needed. So these scheduled appointments the groups will be notified at least 1 to 2 weeks in advance before the funding meetings themselves. And we would require those groups to make that meeting and explain their application or any concerns that the funding board may have. And this will be at the discretion of both myself and Comptroller Price, so it's going through more than one set of eyes to make sure that if there is any reason that a group wasn't able to make it, that it's legitimate and it makes sense. Next thing was semesterly request 4.1.1. A request will be defined as a single event, trip, or equipment/supply order. This was also in the budget application itself, for groups to be at the introduction. So it was clearly defined what it is and what is required of the student groups. We just want to also put this in the policy so that groups have another reference rather than just the application itself. One minor, not a minor change, but just another clarification that we put in was any coaching for on-campus events will be classified as Category B. The funding policies themselves already outline that Category B funding requests will be 100% funded. We just wanted to make sure that there is a clause in there telling groups exactly what a coach will be categorized as. Last one is any request that fails to be classified by the preceding sections shall be split and reclassified in accordance with the Tier 2 funding policies. We had this issue come up last semester where a couple groups had submitted a request that was not a single request. There was an equipment order and or there was a conference or a coaching request within the application itself. What the policies previously said was that they would have to be automatically classified as a Category E. And this just brought in more clerical errors and more issues rather than more remedies. What this allows us to do is split them both in separate requests so that those items that were entitled to be funded 100% get that amount, and those that were supposed to be funded at 65 or 75 to 60% get that amount. That way student groups are getting the money that they expected to get, and it ensures that the process is most streamlined.
For that?
Yeah.
For that one, that actually is, that's really beneficial to groups that we add that in so that they don't get bumped down to 65% funding, that they do, that technically they didn't follow the rules that you submitted different requests, but we understand it's confusing, so we want to, we'll split it up for the groups and give them the money as it would be fit if they submitted the request.
Yeah, as Comptroller Price said, it makes it easier for groups to get more money. Next one is 4.2.3. We just add a sentence at the end of the catering requests. As we are the undergraduate student government, we are only to be funding undergraduates for their on-campus events. And this is to ensure that for catering, those groups that do bring in people that aren't undergrads, that we ensure that those individuals pay that per plate or per person fee that university catering outlines for the codes to those organizations. Next one. Legislative what we did for this was we just took this clause that's written right here, which was originally an eligibility and restrictions, and just moved it under legislative request to make sure that everything's in order.
So this is something that few people would actually know, I suppose, if you don't read all of the Tier 3 policies. Anything that is given out by the funding board is subject to review by the business office, and it must be reviewed by the business office and me to make sure that everything is in line with state law, with university law, USG, the organization, the university will get into big trouble if it all aligns. So this is just saying that your funding, unfortunately, isn't guaranteed until it passes through me and the business office. And usually there are no issues, but everyone can always miss something, make a slight mistake. So if it goes through funding boards, that mistake goes through or that issue, then we would like to clarify it.
The last thing that we added was in the sanctions section that funding board chair, funding board committee member, USG comptroller, USG senator member, and or delegate may be present at any event to ensure that these tier 2 funding policies and university and state law policies are followed properly. This is once again something that was assumed or implied in the previous version of the policies. This is just to make sure that the groups are properly completing their events in accordance with the policies. That is just saying that someone might be present there to be an active eye to look at whether or not your event is actually following the policies and law. Next thing we added was a couple changes to the sanctions and to the degree of what a sanction is. So a level 1 sanction will now just consist of a written warning, and then a level 2 sanction will consist of cancellation of funds relating to that event and cancellation of any funds following 30 days of that misconduct. One thing I would just want to say about sanctions are that they are not in order, they are not successive. Depending on the severity of the misconduct, a level 1, 2, or 3 sanction can be given to any group at any time. But we haven't had, I would say we had maybe one all of last semester, and it was just a written warning. So most groups have done very well at making sure that their events have been awesome. And we thank you for that you have made you proud awesome in that way. That's all we have. So basically, like Claire and I were saying, it's just making those implications or those assumptions, just putting them in written words so that groups have better references for what exactly is required of them.
Are there any, yes, okay, hold on. Chief of Staff, you're going to say something first, and then Chairperson Sergeant, and then.
Did you intend for the text at the end of the policy to be part of the agenda?
No. Can we erase that?
I mean, it's technically on the floor.
By unanimous consent? So when I ask that, I mean, if anyone objects that you believe that, you speak up. So now we have to go into a vote. Okay. Seeing none. Chairperson Sergeant?
It's kind of nitpicky, but I think it's section 4.1 clause B.
Is the recommended. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on one second.
It's just
Before you present your question.
meant by that, contractual services can be for a category D or in most cases, category A events. And this was just to ensure that, the wording was actually incorrect, which is why we changed it.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we move into debate. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we move into it. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
How's it going, guys? This is not a statement on what you guys should do. If you'd like to bring this to a vote, by all means. But I think this, because you guys are new this year, some of you are old, but either way, you heard earlier tonight from student groups who asked for this to be tabled, and I think it would be prudent for this body to discuss that before deciding not to table it.
Is there anybody else who would like to be recognized for debate? Senator Alvarez, Chairperson Rana, and Senator Khan, in that order. But you guys are going to have to go slow. So this is Senator Alvarez. Okay.
I agree with the president that we should discuss it, and it should be explained why we're not tabling this. These changes, I know to your understanding it seems like, or you had the impression that these were bigger changes with policy, but in reality, those things, none of these things are actually going to affect student groups. If it were a larger change in which it was actually something that you would feel the effects of course we would notify you beforehand so that you were aware this is going to come up, what are your opinions on it, what do you think? However, these are kind of those things that it's just clarifying, and it's more of a on paper sort of thing rather than an actual policy or bureaucracy change. So that is why it's, I don't believe we should table it tonight.
Yeah, Chairperson Rana would like to be distributed to the list of yields. So Chairperson Iran was recognized, comma, or semicolon, yields. Okay. Senator Ghana? So in the similar fashion, the same exact thing, Senator D. Ghana was recognized as Speaker of the Chair. And now we're going to recognize Chairperson Ms. E.
I personally think that we should table this until next Senate. I think we have heard directly from the students that they would like to see an email sent out to them with these policies entailing the old and the new. I think that because this is a request directly from them and perhaps we aren't making it clear enough, putting it in the daily canvas and advertising these new policy changes, that if they want an email and if they want to have it in there for reference in their own emails and whatnot, I think that we should be able to supply with their request, essentially.
Senator Innes, just to clarify, are you making a motion to table?
Yes.
Is there a second? Senator Ghana? Okay. Not you. I mean, it's not really me, it's so you're also to here? Right. So this is a little weird. We had the initial motion. Now we're debating a motion within the motion. Alright, are there any questions? She got one from saying that. Are there any questions regarding the motion? And if anyone is confused, the way that you ask me a question is by saying point of information. Are there any questions or? No? Alright, seeing that, we move into debate. Now the debate is regarding whether we should adopt, and Senator Innes did propose a timeline when this legislation would resurface. So the motion that we're debating is whether we discuss this next Senate. Okay? Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate specifically regarding whether we table this until next Senate? Sergeant at Arms Ron. Yes, and then, yeah. It's okay, you can-
Hey guys, hope everybody's doing pretty well. So I don't necessarily think we should leave this till next Senate, possibly because we've already been contacted by multiple groups regarding legislative requests, and I think it's important that this gets done in regards to that, because legislative requests still fall under the same guidelines, and I think it's necessary to have the new guidelines set in place before we have these groups applying.
We're not making it easier for you.
Alright, just to touch base on a few things I previously said in my report. August 15th, dispersal requests are almost done. There's still a few requests that I have not been able to completely review because the policies have not been passed. September 13th dispersal requests are also in this right. And there are also requests relating directly to the things that are in these policies that have to be addressed. I'm saying this that I need these policies passed so that I can efficiently review, so that funding board can efficiently review the dispersal requests that we will be having, that we have as of now, and that we will have within the next week. I have say this also because some of the decisions that funding board may be forced to make will result in appeals if groups do not feel that they were properly or efficiently reviewed. And with these policies enacted effectively immediately, if we pass them, it'll allow funding board to be able to make the most efficient recommendations possible for Senate to pass. Not for Senate to pass, but the most efficient recommendations for student organizations to make sure that they get the most money that they are entitled to, and to make sure that student groups are getting exactly what they deserve. These policies, the way that they have been written as of now, allow funding board to be able to make these decisions more efficiently. It allows us to not be under any assumptions, and it allows groups to know that we are not acting under any assumptions or implications. It makes everything written in black and white so that funding board can do their job as efficient as possible.
Yes, Chairperson Manfred.
I don't think we should table this issue, one, for what Part said, and for what Neil said. It's a timeline thing, we really need these to be enacted now. Also, like Kevin said, there aren't changes in the process that this affects. They're just clarification, and really what that is increased transparency on our part. There isn't anything that the changes do that cloud up the process. If anything, they make it smoother, and it makes it clearer for groups. That is what we've been asked for in the past, that's what we were asked for tonight, and that's really what this is doing.
I agree that I don't think this should be tabled because, again, as you said, it's a timing issue. However, I do agree as a Tier 2 CFO that more transparency should be involved in the day-to-day activities of what this group does. I think, just as a personal opinion, that future changes to any policies that affect Tier 2s should be communicated to them beforehand, just as a looking to the future.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. So
I don't believe this should be tabled. And they have spoken. I think their main concern now is the transparency within USG to Tier 2 organizations. I think moving forward, we should be more concerned with sending those emails out and notifying them about everything else. But this is well done. I don't think it really changed anything.
Senator Rana, Sergeant Armstrong, I guess now I have to recognize Senator Sama first. Sure.
Yeah.
By approve this, you're not talking about the motion to table, you're talking about the actual legislation. Yeah, so it's within your prerogative to talk about whatever you want to talk about at MSN or caucus or anything. So yes. Are there, Sergeant Armstrong? We need to get to a vote following the previous question. By unanimous consent, is there anybody else who would like to speak? So by unanimous consent, we okay.
Sorry.
So now we have to follow the previous question. Although,
Yeah. Can I give the floor?
do you withdraw the motion?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes, you can do.
Hey guys again. After hearing a lot of this, I realized that you guys are not able to move until this is passed. But what I want to bring up is the, and I realize on the timetable that you guys are dealing with, tabling this now might not be as viable an option as it would look like from the outside. But that being said, I feel like the initial, when the initial change was made 2 weeks ago, that's when an email should have gone out. And basically my concern at this point is that it was discretionary. It was up to your guys' opinion whether or not the email went out to the Tier 2 organizations about the funding shift. And what I would ask for is that something we put into the process that when any changes are made to the funding system, to this policy, whether it be in text in regards to clarification or in terms of process, that an email is sent out notifying the Tier 2 organizations and asking for that input, or at least giving that door open, leaving that door open, because we just heard changes. We don't know we weren't aware of what was going on because that email wasn't sent out. So thank you very much.
Oh, no, you don't have to have questions, but that was great. That was Mr. Samuels, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I guess I can take responsibility for not properly communicating to the Tier 2s exactly what the changes were going to be. I guess it is kind of daunting to just hear that there's changes to the funding policies. I can apologize on behalf of those changes. And next time, if we do have any type of issues, we will send an email to the Tier 2 COOs, CFOs, just to make sure that they are also an active part in these changes or in any concerns that they may have, just to make sure that we as USG are in our best efforts maintaining transparency and maintaining our highest level of open communications with Tier 2 organizations. Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else who would like to be recognized for debate? All right. We'll move into a vote about the amendment. Not the amendment. The motion to table. Okay? All those in favor of tabling this piece of legislation until the next Senate, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. Abstentions. Motion carries. I apologize. I just want to make a general note. President Crochet and I were laughing a little bit, but we will have a training about this, because I understand that you guys may not know, but all of the comments, especially in debate, must be related to the motion at hand. In that case, it was about the motion to table. It's not a big deal for the Senate, but a lot of times our Senate vote 4 hours long, and in that case, it's going to be very important. the other comment I'll make is for any of you who have known Speaker Patel, Speaker Jigish Patel, remember the incoming Vice President Patel, he would have shut all of this down for no reason. So just don't be surprised if that happens in the future. Just want to make that comment. So now we move back into debate. The debate is regarding the motion that Comptroller Price, well, the legislation that Comptroller Price presented anyway. Is there anybody else who'd like to be recognized for debate regarding this piece of legislation? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying the legislation presented by the Comptroller and the Funding Chair, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Passes. Seeing no items in discussion, we move into announcements. Is there anybody who'd like to be recognized for announcements? Go ahead. President Corshane, so those of you who don't know him, he's not that important.
Well, first of all, great work, guys. Thank you for going through that discussion. Because it's early in the year, a lot of times we have kind of this like silent agreement of like what's going on, and I could see in people's faces that they were not comfortable with just moving forward with a vote on that. So, great discussion. Glad we got through that, and everybody is feeling good about that legislation. Moving forward, next week we have caucus. So we don't have an official meeting, which means that we'll be in comfortable clothes and jeans and ready to just kind of hang out. So I would like to let all of you know that with our new set of senators elected, you're all invited to come with me and the rest of the exec, whoever is interested, to Bidwell Tavern. Who's been to the Bidwell Tavern?
Oh, I think that's really great. We should go there.
We will provide rides to people who don't have cars, but we'll hang out, we'll order some wings. This will be out of our own pockets, but I just wanted to let everybody know a week ahead of time that after caucus next week, we're going to go hang out at the Bidwell Tavern with all of our new members. Sound good? Great. Everybody likes food, drink it. It'll be awesome. That's it for tonight.
Yeah, hold on one second. What's that? Yeah, you have an announcement, but before that, Vice President Gomez has a question. Maybe
I have a question that I feel like a lot of you guys would benefit from hearing. Is caucus mandatory?
Caucus, I wish you had that. Caucus is technically not mandatory, technically, but it is strongly, strongly, strongly urged that you attend to the point where it is mandatory.
For example, we talked about the money policy that caucus.
Right. For example, yeah, all of these changes were presented last week. The other thing is, as the Chief of Staff just reminded me, is that next caucus we're doing committee selection, like formal committee selection. You have to serve on the committee. I will assign you to a committee if you're not serving on the committee. In which case, that's bad. So you want to choose your committee, right? So make sure you come to caucus. Right? Anything else, Chairperson Hines?
Hang on, I'm pulling it up. Or Ed, no, when that meeting is on Monday? Time?
1 o'clock.
Okay.
It starts at 1. It goes to 3.
I need someone, you don't even need to be on my, preferably if you're going to do student services, I would like you to go to this if you're available. But there's a meeting with the police chief and another group of people about security on Monday. And I need someone to please go because I have class and I can't go.
See the chairperson afterwards, does that work?
Yeah, that's